Hello everybody, welcome back to Screenstars, welcome to another PlayStation 4 review. Today's review is for 1971 Project Helios, a game that was originally released on the PlayStation in 2020 I believe, and it is a turn-based strategy game. As you know guys, I am a big fan of turn-based strategy games, and this is a game that I have had on my want to buy list for a while. And I recently picked it up a couple of weeks ago. I don't believe it was in a sale, but it was at a decent price. I think it was less than £15 from memory. Anyway, what I paid for this game. Now, I love turn-based strategy games, so I'm always willing to give them a go, regardless of the budget size. Anything from XCOM right down to lower budget versions of turn-based strategy games, I will generally give them a go if the price point is good enough, because I just like turn-based strategy games. I find the gameplay addictive. I find them fairly calming to play. I find them can be quite strategic, so they work the brain. And with this one, it's kind of set in, it's like a wintry setting. You're a group of people trapped out in the snow. You've got to scavenge for goods, etc., so on and so forth. Now, I'm going to be really honest here, guys, with you in regards to this review. I've given up on this game. Now, I usually pride myself in my reviews on giving you the best detail I can possibly give you in regards to a game. I'll play it for the amount of time that I think is suitable to be able to give you an in-depth review. I don't always complete games before I give you a review. I don't always think you need to complete a game. Sometimes you've seen enough, depending on the game, after several hours of playing it. Sometimes it's far more than that in regards to doing a review. But with this game, I've just had to stop playing it because I can't play it anymore, because A, it's not particularly good, and B, it just keeps freezing and crashing on me. I've never played a game from memory that has done it as often as this game. It happens so frequently that it makes an already frustrating game almost impossible to enjoy and impossible to persevere through. So just be warned, guys, if you are going to pick this game up, it's going to freeze on you an awful lot. And it's usually when you're in the middle of combat, you'll finish your round of turns, and then it'll be on the enemy's turn. They'll do their turn, and then it should be back to your turn. And even though you can still flip the camera around, it will not move on to your character's turn at all. And I literally sat there for about 20 minutes on purpose just to see if it was a problem in that sense, or if it had literally just frozen. And that's what it does every single time, and it's probably done it with me now at least 8 times in probably the 6 hours that I'd put into the game at that point. And to me, that is just way unacceptable. So that's the reason why this isn't as an in-depth a review I would have liked to have given you, because I just can't be bothered, if I'm honest, to try and persevere through this game, to try and get 10-15 hours into it to give you a far more in-depth review, because the gameplay in the game is not really floating my boat, if I'm being honest, but the freezes and crashes are driving me absolutely potty. Now, in regards to how the game looks, really just depends on what kind of art style you like. I personally find it a little bit uninspired in regards to the art style and the colours, but it's certainly functional in regards to how the game looks. In regards to how the game sounds, well, there's no voice acting here. It's all text-based stuff. So again, that removes some of the immersion here. I don't always dislike text-based stuff in games, but these days I think many of us, me included, would prefer, some attempt at some kind of voice acting in games, and unfortunately you don't get any here. You do get some fairly, basic music playing constantly throughout the game, but it's not music that's really going to, inspire or anything like that. Right, the gameplay, well, it's turn-based, as I've said, and essentially you'll wander around a map with, a group of people within your squad. Usually it's about 3 or 4 people. You'll wander through a map with certain goals that you've got to achieve, and quite frequently you'll walk into a certain area within that level and there will be enemies to fight in that section. Sometimes it's a similar amount of enemies that you've got in your squad, sometimes it's less, sometimes it's more. And it's for you to be quite tactical in how you take them out. Now, the major problem I have in regards to the gameplay and the combat here with this game is when a member of your squad dies, essentially it's game over and you've got to restart the combat from that section. Now, thankfully, the autosave is fairly forgiving here. So as you move into a new combat scenario, if you have to restart that combat, you'll just have to restart there where you were and try and get through. But sometimes it is just really, really frustrating. I mean, there is like a revive option sometimes that pops up, but I couldn't see no rhyme or reason as to how you revive your players. Sometimes you can revive them, sometimes you can't revive them. And it is really, really frustrating. And the cover does nothing. Normally in turn-based strategy games, you can go in an area of cover and it will offer you a certain amount of protection. If you've got half a shield, it's half the cover. If you've got a full shield, you've essentially got pretty much full protection unless it's destructible environments. Here, that means nothing. You can stand behind an obstacle that gives you what you think is full protection, and the enemy will just fire straight through that cover and hit you. And they all target one of your soldiers, which is really frustrating as well. Because if there's 4 enemies when you go into a section to fight, and one of them targets one of your soldiers with 4 shots, they're down, and you've got to restart the combat. Unless they miss. So quite a lot of the times it's luck whether you make it through a combat scenario, because you're just hoping that they will miss some of their shots. And sometimes you have to replay it 3 or 4 times and you kind of figure out a way how to outthink them or to out-tactic them, which I like. But other times it is just down to blind luck whether they miss a shot occasionally. And it can be I just found the combat really, really frustrating. Other than that, it's exactly what you expect from turn-based strategy games. You know, you've got your different weapons, you've got your Overwatch, so on and so forth. It's not hard to pick up the combat, especially if you're used to turn-based strategy games. It's just frustrating how they've set it out, which I found really, really bothered me. I also found an awful lot of the levels that I played just too dark, and you just couldn't figure out where you were going, what door you should be going through. And even though it gives you a basic outline of some of the things you should be doing in the levels or looking for, it doesn't really point you in the right directions of where you should be going next. So you'll find yourself wandering around levels aimlessly, unfortunately. So I have to say, guys, I've really found this game incredibly frustrating to play. I'm not keen on the combat. I'm not keen on the design choice here in regards to one of your squad member dies and it's game over. You know, you could always make it like if one of your squad members dies and you still make it through the combat, you could revive them with first aid kits or something like that. It's just the addictive gameplay loop just isn't there for me, because I just found it really frustrating. And obviously the constant freezes in the game made it impossible to enjoy, impossible to persevere through, guys. So I've no choice really but to give this a low score of 3 out of 10, because I couldn't find the energy or enthusiasm to try and play through a game that just was buggy as hell and kept freezing and not allowing me to enjoy it. So I would definitely suggest, guys, this is one to avoid. It's been out long enough now for them to patch it up and make it certainly playable. So this is one I would suggest you avoid. So I hope you enjoyed this review and I hope you found it useful.